cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another rendition of the weekly wrap-up. It is Sunday evening, Sunday night, and we are ready to do yet another stream. We're going to be talking about Greenland a little bit. We're going to be talking about the ICE protests that continuously are just going on. The left is just in denial of reality. Why are they trying to do this? What is their main end goal here? To try and control the narrative, which they have such less control over. Like, all of this stuff could not be happening in the first Trump administration, but it's happening now, and I tell people they need to hold the line. Now is not the time to cave. Now is not the time to sit down. Now is the time to double down, and when you double down and you get things done and things improve, you win, and that is the most important takeaway that people need to have. So again, make sure you guys like the stream down below, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell obviously, and we will start when we get to 100 likes. We're at 71 likes, 72. So when we hit 100, we're going to start the stream as we usually do. We have several hundred live viewers. Everybody like the stream down below, subscribe if you are unsubscribed or if you're new. So we will get going here. But again, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns for me throughout the stream, you guys send those in via super chats. It's the last part of the introduction that we'll do before we do turn on the face cam, because we're almost there to 100. Again, 15 super chats, 5 and above. That'll be our goal for this stream. If we do that, if we get there, then we'll read regular chat and what you guys are saying in regular chat later on. I don't have like a segment plan today. But regardless, we've hit 100 likes and we are ready to go. So we're going to be talking about both the ICE protests and Greenland, but we're going to start off with Greenland because Donald Trump, he's been making a play for it. You have mixed signals from Denmark. They do this thing now where it's like military action. They're going to send 5 to 10 people and they're going to put them on Greenland, and everybody is laughing at this around the world. Do you think you realistically can stop not just this administration, but the United States of America? Do you think you can stop the United States of America? Basically, they're biting the hand that feeds them regarding NATO. The only reason why these countries have a military that is paid for, it is because the United States has been subsidizing NATO. They have been subsidizing the European military forces. For how long exactly have they been doing this? And Donald Trump has negotiated where we are paying less into NATO, and these other countries are paying more of their fair share, which is a good step in the right direction. And these are the same people saying, how dare Donald Trump want Greenland, they say. This is they're tearing up the alliance. But here's the problem. Donald Trump is offering them more than enough money for Greenland. He's basically willing to offer them like $700 billion over like a 10-year span, probably something like that, which sounds like a lot, but the resources on the island are going to make it pay for itself. They always say, well, the U.S. already has access there. Well, you have China that's trying to get access there. You have Russia that's trying to get access there. They're going to get there. Denmark is not going to stop them regarding a lot of these like shipping lanes and things of that nature. And if it really matters so much, why don't we take control of it and give Denmark access if it's so much about access? It's not about access that we currently already have not being enough. That's not really what this is about. This is just, you have Denmark. They don't really want to hand it over for one reason or another, but it's not even in their hemisphere. It's in our hemisphere. And the United States is putting more than a fair offer on the table. And if they're going to say no, yeah, Donald Trump might just send some people there and just see what happens, right? Like, what exactly are they going to do if we just show up? If we just show up, if we turn off the stream, if we pause the revenue stream that we already send to all of these countries, whether it's going to be a tariff thing or whether it's not. Now, it does seem like Trump now is saying, okay, well, because national security of the world is at stake, because we need Greenland, which has been talked about long before Trump. It's been talked about during Reagan and long before that the United States should go out there and acquire Greenland. Now, I've said Democrats don't want Trump to acquire Greenland, not because it's not in the U.S. best interest, because it is in the United States' best interest to acquire that land, to have control over that space, to have control of the Arctic, a big part of the Arctic, which you would get with Greenland. You already have Alaska, but you'd like to have more. And ideally, we could talk about certain parts of Canada as well, because everyone says 51st state. I would rather acquire the sparsely populated territories. I'd rather get the Yukon. I'd rather get the Northwest Territories. I'd rather get Nunavut, whatever you want to call it up there. I'd rather have those. And then maybe we could peel off like Alberta or Saskatchewan. I don't want Ontario. I don't really want Quebec. If anything, they're going to be their own country. So regardless of what happens on that front, you're not going to have a 51st state of Canada, but could you eventually, deep into the future, if Canada and its economy fails and you see different states split off, or the provinces, I should say, split off and possibly join the union at that point, maybe, but that will be probably later down the road, far after Donald Trump's presidency is over. But Greenland, that's different. That's right on the horizon. Panama Canal, that's right in the horizon. We just went in and deposed of a dictator effortlessly in Venezuela. We have shown the ability, and we've also took out the Iranian nuclear facilities with the push of a button. 0 American lives lost on either front. The foreign policy of this administration is working. They understand we're a force to be reckoned with, and they should come to the table. And Donald Trump is forcing them to come to the table because he's putting tariffs on 8 of these countries starting in February, rising to 25% in June unless Denmark agrees to sell Greenland. So he's kind of putting pressure on these nations, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, UK, Netherlands, and Finland. But you could also say, well, Trump's close to a trade deal with the European Union, which is also true, which is also the case. So this also could be, not only is Donald Trump trying to pressure Denmark into buying Greenland, because you have a bunch of these other countries that are also in Europe that are also a part of this, he wants to make sure that he can get the best trade deal that he possibly can get on the horizon with these European countries. So there is a method to the madness here. There's a little bit of 4D chess, if not 3.5D chess that Donald Trump is using. But regardless, Greenland, that is something that would benefit us. You have the resources. That is top priority. The resources, the shipping lanes, the access to the Arctic, especially the way, the Arctic is melting a little bit up there, and Russia and China are ready to take control over those shipping lanes. They'll take control of those resources. Denmark doesn't have the ability to extract them. We do. So you talk about who's going to invade Greenland. If Trump even did invade Greenland, it would save Greenland from being occupied by an American adversary, a Western adversary. So no, I don't like this notion that you have to get walked all over by your allies is the most ridiculous piece of garbage I think anybody in the world has ever repeated as a notion about how America should conduct itself. No, we're America. We're putting America first. We're going to push you guys around in the world stage. It's our world and you're living in it. That's basically what foreign policy needs to be in the West. We are superior. We are supreme. The United States is the greatest country on earth, and we have a right to our manifest destiny. We have a right, especially in this hemisphere in particular. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. Now it's arguably being called the Donroe Doctrine. Donald Trump wants control of Greenland. He's going to find a way to get it. So you either get it the nice way or you get it the not so nice way. He's a mob boss. Live with it. Deal with it. Cry about it. Call him names. We don't give a shit anymore. We've won how many elections against you guys when it actually counts because people are sick of you. That's what it is. They're sick of the left. They're sick of the global homo. They're sick of everything. They want America to be first. It doesn't mean we have to withdraw from the world stage in the capacity that isolationist types would want. It just means that we're going to be able to go out there, project strength, and make sure that we're going to be able to accomplish whatever is necessary to accomplish to get things done that will benefit the United States, that are America first. That includes Greenland, by the way. It includes the Panama Canal Zone, which Jimmy Carter gave away for $1 in the 1970s. The guy's a joke. I mean, one of the worst presidents that we've had until the previous one that left office early last year. So that's really the situation that we're in. We've had weak leadership, and now it's time to rectify. Now it's time to be strong. And the main reason why the left opposes this, except for John Fetterman, because apparently he got his brain back, and it's the only Democrat's brain that seems to be working free from Trump derangement syndrome at times, is because Fetterman, I think, does at least if not love this country. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he sees Donald Trump call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. He's in favor of it. He sees, Trump project strength with Venezuela. The left whines about it. He's in favor of it. Greenland, buying Greenland, acquiring Greenland. He's not Trump deranged. He understands that Greenland would be a net benefit for the United States to control. And that's exactly what it's seemingly coming into fruition, because it does seem as if Trump is willing to do anything it takes to get Greenland because it's his legacy. But that's the thing with the left. The main reason why they oppose it is nothing to do with the fact that it doesn't benefit the U.S. It's because it would make Donald Trump objectively the most consequential president since Dwight D. Eisenhower. Maybe you could say LBJ for the wrong reasons, but still, it would make Donald Trump the most consequential president that we've seen at least over the past 60 years, And that's why they don't like it. That's why. Territorial expansion, we have not seen that in a very long time in the United States. But if it can happen and if it can benefit the United States, why not? There's like 60,000 people there. There's more people that have watched my last few videos combined than the entire population of Greenland. My videos about Greenland got more views than the population of Greenland. That's just reality. It's not even like a flex on Greenland. It just shows how few people Greenland actually has. So if they're not willing to take the offer, you could make every citizen a millionaire and you'd have a lot of money left over. Why not just go for it? Why not just do it? They don't want to be a part of Denmark anyways. Greenland, yeah, they may not want to be a part of the U.S., but if it's U.S. and Denmark and the U.S. is offering them something, they would be stupid to say no to the U.S. They would be monumentally stupid to turn down a better life for themselves. They could actually, have a far more functioning society up there than they likely have right now if they have, $1 million per person or even just a few $100,000 USD per person. That would work wonders. It would work wonders anywhere. You're telling me it's not going to work wonders in Greenland. So that's kind of my main take on this. He's raising it on all the countries that are surrounding, a lot of allies of Denmark. That's what you need to do. You need to hit these nations where they hurt and bring them to the table. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do. And we will see how successful that this ends up being. But if he's truly able to get Greenland, it would make him the most consequential president going back without any debate over the past 60 years, if not even longer than that, depending on what else he would be able to get done. So anyways, we're going to keep it moving. We're going to move on to the ICE segment. Like the stream, guys. If you're just getting here, like the stream, subscribe if you haven't yet, hit the bell, do all that good stuff, and send in super chats because we will be getting to the super chats once the main segment is over. So do keep that in mind. Okay, so we're going to move on. ICE protests, they're out of control. Now, these people have to, you could say, hate this country because if you don't believe that a country should exist, you take down its borders. That's obviously the first thing that you would do. You would say, well, in order to be a member of this country, it doesn't matter. Everyone's an undocumented American. You could be living in the middle of Sri Lanka. You're an undocumented American. That is how the left views American national identity. These are just full-on globalists. They don't believe in borders. They don't believe in anything. They believe in what is essentially neoliberal communism, and they have their mentally ill foot soldiers out there who are literal just communists, Antifa members, the useful idiots doing anything that they need to possibly do to advance the narrative. And we see that, and you see what goes on. Now they're harassing churches on Sunday. Has Tim Walz said a word about this? No. Has the mayor of Minneapolis said a word about this? No. But you have an anti-ICE mob storming the services, disrupting the worship under the allegation that one of the church's lead pastors is an ICE agent. So again, this is the thing. You have law enforcement under attack. They say defund ICE, abolish ICE. These are the same people that are doing the same like defund the police stuff. We need to set the narrative significantly over the next few months here and make these people no different than the defund the police. When somebody says defund ICE, it's honestly, you could even say worse than when somebody says defund the police. But you have leading left-wing politicians going out there saying this stuff, embracing this stuff. These people are lunatics. These people are demonic. They don't support the rule of law in any capacity. They want people that should not be here, have zero right to be here, who were brought here either directly or indirectly by the previous administration. Those are the people that they want to stay in this country. They view them as to be more important like than their own family, their own kids if they even have any, their own parents who they probably hate because they are, one of them might be right wing or something. Like, this is what we're dealing with here. This is what the left has to offer. It's harassing people in churches because they might be somebody who is protecting their community. This is backwards morality of every stretch of the term. They like have these lies that they kind of cling to about, oh, ICE is abusing rights. They can't even like point to an instance. You have all this fake garbage media that's involved. They'll say this is like the shooting that happened. They would say this was just like ICE agents decided to hunt down this woman for one reason or another. She wasn't even an illegal alien. She wasn't even anyone from like a recent immigrant background either. You have just this like white lesbian lady who is working for a left wing. They call them legal observers. It's like, I'm going to go into a McDonald's and I'm just going to go in the back. I'm going to go to the kitchen and say I'm just I'm just legally observing the food. I'm just making sure it's up to code. It's not how it works. You don't get to do that, first of all, but that's not even the point. The second thing that's an important takeaway here is the fact that she tried to run him over with her vehicle by every possible metric beyond a reasonable doubt. He had a reason to believe that his life was in danger, fired, the actual ICE on the ground, was able to stop the vehicle from slamming into the ICE agent, but you could see the wheels were turning towards him. It was accelerating, so he was able to get the shots off, get out of the way, did everything there. He will most certainly be acquitted because, again, there was zero evidence of like premeditated murder for one, and for two, he had a reason to believe his life was in danger, and he did not use excessive force because she was armed with a 4,000-pound death machine that was pointed right at him, and she was antagonizing him. He was just trying to get her plate, going around, you name it. It is just, she was trying to flee you could say trying to flee the scene as well. But even in that case, she didn't have a right to flee the scene and was trying to flee the scene by smashing into the guy with her 4,000-pound death machine, also known as an automobile, a vehicle. It's not how it works. But the left will take that, and instead of trying to rationalize through it like a normal person, waiting for the facts like a normal person, they just jump to anger. They jump to, in many cases, violence and or mobs, and are going out there storming churches, alleging that, oh, you might work for ICE, therefore you're bad or something, probably trying to say that they're like the fake Christians or whatever. These people are not they're not going to. This is the only church they've probably ever been to in the past 50 years. If they're even that old, which they're probably not, probably the first one they've gone into in their entire lives, just to moral grandstand about things that they don't understand, things they pretend not to understand in many cases. So this is what you get with the left. So I'm kind of curious why the right cannot set the narrative here. Like, it's good to double down. That's important. But where's the element of setting the narrative? You have ICE is doing its job. People forget. They forget the basic facts. Under the past 5 years, before this year, but under Biden, you had 10 million illegal aliens pour across the border illegally. They should not be here. They are hurting the economy. Many of them have criminal records. The ones that don't still are criminals because they illegally cross the border and have zero legal right to be in the United States, and they need to go back home. And yeah, we need a large ICE presence, a presence of patriots who are going to get these people off the streets of this country and send them back into their home countries. And that's reasonable. Every illegal alien residing in the United States needs to be sent home. Every single one. They need to go door to door. They need to coordinate with local police departments. This is all common sense. There should be zero person who opposes any of this. And I don't think that many people do. But you have this tendency of the left to try and manufacture the narrative because they understand how midterm elections work. They can run their little demoralization ops on the right while energizing and drumming up attention within the left. That seems to be their end game. They are desperate. They have lost the plot. They've lost a lot of the narrative control. They have lost, by the way. They really have lost quite a bit. I mean, you look at the polls after the George Floyd incident and you compare them to the polls after the Renee Good incident, you see how it's just a very, very large drop-off in people that say that the officer involved committed murder or whatever. Now, granted, we did have the full video this time, but it kind of just shows that the narrative is not working at the extent that it was. But I definitely would say one thing I am afraid about is you'll have the midterms happen. And yes, almost every single year that it's a midterm year, the party out of power gains. However, Republicans, the weak Republicans, they need to make sure that they hold firm here when it comes down to this, because they're already starting to say it'll hurt electorally. They'll cite a YouGov poll, like those have ever been accurate in the past 5 years. It's been the worst pollster in the entire country, and they're asking leading questions, and the polls aren't even that great for the Democrats, given the media narrative, the media coverage of this whole thing that we've seen. Like the right, you have a knockout punch, and you have so many people that just want to take the dive. And that's the thing. Like, if anything, you should be scaring people on the right to turn out to vote. It's kind of what I'm doing here, but it is legitimate because you understand that, the Democrats might try to find ways to cut funding. I know the funding has kind of been categorized already for quite some time. That's true, but the left is going to try to really hammer in this abolish ICE narrative. And it's better that they do that, by the way. It's better that they talk about abolishing ICE very loudly between now and their primary. Their primary is going to happen next year, starting next year, 2027. I want all the lunatics on the debate stage saying abolish ICE, abolish ICE. It's going to play out well. Because presidential years, for some reason, it's a lot easier for Republicans to set the narrative than it has been in these midterm years for one reason or another. A big part of it is they suck at it. So they need to make sure that they're effectively, putting their chips on the right, on the right numbers here. In this case, it would be, yes, mass deportations, a good thing. They poll popular depending on how you ask the question. What does that tell me? It tells me that you're not framing the narrative properly. They failed to realize Donald Trump won an election where he promised the largest mass deportation force in American history, and Democrats at the time were so sheepish to even call that out as being bad or inhumane or whatever, mainly because of the fact that they knew it was a big electoral loser for them. So now, ahead of a midterm year where the dynamic is a little bit different, they're hoping that they can drum up enough like mentally ill lunatics to show up at the polls. And they might be able to do so effectively because they're expecting you to stay home and sit it out. And we cannot allow that to happen. There's so many psyops going on. I did an article on my website. If you guys want to sign up, it's $5 a month, 16 cents a day. It basically functions as a Patreon, but you get a free video every other week and you get a free article every other week that you won't see anywhere else. We covered the 5 biggest psyops, demoralization ops about this Trump administration, because it is working. He is deporting people. You have millions of people that have left the country since he's taken office, either by force or not by force. And you have hundreds of thousands of people in custody and hundreds of thousands of interior removals. Interior removals, not I will turn you away at the border removal, like what we saw under Bush 2 and Obama. So either way, the left is out of control, and like I said, if you want to abolish ICE, that means you get rid of the only force in the United States that is truly upholding its sovereignty as a nation. Without immigration enforcement, the United States will be a dumping ground, even more of a dumping ground for the third world and the rest of the world's problems than it already is. It is anti-American at its core. The people that hate ICE want to radically transform America into a cesspool that is unrecognizable from what it would be like even today if we talk about 50 years down the line. So again, we're nothing without a border, we're nothing without enforceable laws, and we're nothing if we don't know who actually lives here, and the illegal aliens all need to go back. That's the way it is. People need to show paperwork. They will compare it to the Gestapo. I honestly don't give a shit what because they're going to call you a Nazi no matter what you do. So yes, go door to door. Put an ICE agent on every corner of every major city. Why are Republicans so feckless? Why don't they grow a spine for once in their lives and say, I don't care what you call the optics of it. That's the thing they don't understand. Like, they don't understand that, the left is going to come for you no matter what because these people are misaligned with reality. So they want to say, well, it's actually somewhat does sound fascistic to do this thing. Who cares? Get the job done. Remove these people. It doesn't matter. You could come up with any justification you want to lose. That's not really the way that I don't like people that do that. Why should we find justifications to lose? Why don't we find justifications to actually win for a change? These people are all spineless. They don't want to win. They want to whine. Some of them will whine about not winning enough. It's absurd what I've seen from these people. You're dealing with clowns and cowards all around. And you have people on the left that are willing to do anything. They're willing to harass you in churches because you want to enforce the law and you're too afraid to go door to door like Donald Trump promised on his campaign where he won a record share of the Hispanic vote. Are you stupid? Are you crazy? The gaslighting is out of control and we're not going to put up with it and we're not going to tolerate it. Not here, not ever. Okay, that's the way it goes. Now, as for the midterms, we have another update from North Carolina that came out yesterday. And this is huge because North Carolina, one of the most important swing states in the United States for 2026 and 2028. You have a Senate race there this fall. And then 2028, you have a presidential election that will be taking place. And keep in mind, Republicans, for the first time in history, over the past few weeks, they have taken the total voter registration lead in the state of North Carolina. And on top of it, we have 115,000 registered voters over the Democrats. Democrats had a lead in the active registration when Donald Trump won the state in 2024. So while voter registration is not everything, we know it's not everything. We also know that it's not nothing. And the fact that Republicans have netted over 500,000 registrations in the Tar Heel state from the last time Roy Cooper won an election in North Carolina, I refuse to see how that is a bad sign by any means. It's not. I don't understand how anybody could spin that as a negative. So North Carolina is huge. Democrats are going to struggle there, even if they do pick off the Senate race. And they need a miracle, because if they don't get North Carolina or Maine, because Collins is running, they're going to need to win. In order to retake the Senate, they would need to win Ohio, Alaska, Texas, and then they would need like Nebraska, because they need to get to 51. And they're not getting Nebraska. They're not getting any of those states. Like, they're delusional about Mary Peltola running in Alaska. We'll talk about that more this week in a video. But the whole thing is ridiculous, where Democrats think they're going to have a great midterm and Republicans want to cave because they think it's going to save them. It's not. If you lose the midterms, it's a turnout problem. If you cave, you're going to have a turnout problem. So you better double down. You better find a way to make sure you can just set the narrative for once. Find a way to win. Instead, they find ways to lose. It's the most just disgraceful display that we see from a party. And that doesn't mean they don't need to win. A lot of Republicans are getting better at this for sure. but so many of them still struggle. I remember that one time when Trump was running initially for president in 2016, he said, "I will show the Republican Party how to win." He's kind of showing them how to win to a certain extent. And sometimes people can't fully grasp it. They can't fully get their heads on straight for one reason or another, and they'll find weird ways to justify why they are unable to have their heads on straight for said reason or another. So, yes, we will get to super chats because we are about 34 minutes into the stream, 35 minutes in. And we have almost 500 viewers, guys. Like the stream. Make sure you guys like the stream so we can get as many likes as we possibly can. I don't know. But we'll start off here. We have 7 of the 15 super chats to our goal. Make sure you guys send in super chats if you have any questions, comments, concerns. We'll get to them. But Peter Masseri for 5 says, off topic, do you think Governor Stein could lose in 2028 in North Carolina? It's possible, although keep in mind it is difficult to defeat an incumbent governor. It depends on what his approval is. Well, what's the state of affairs? What's going on? We'll see. Tucson Paleocon for 5 says, hearing that some of Trump's advisors are trying to distract him from Greenland by encouraging him to focus on Iran, Russia, and Venezuela. Well, I don't understand why you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. All Donald Trump did was put tariffs on these European countries, which is something that he already has been doing, relentlessly throughout his administration. He's still doing the other realm of foreign policy. So, yes, he can do both. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. It's not impossible. I don't know what there really is to say about it. American Nerd 76 for 6 says, on Greenland, should the U.S. try a compact of free association where Greenland is independent but under our control, or complete annexation? Well, the first, I think, would be easier to accomplish, but I think Trump would rather just have the mandate to have complete annexation. But if it's more viable in the short term to have the compact of free association like we have with, I think, like the Marshall Islands or the Federated States of Micronesia, or an entity like that, then that would work out better in terms of a viability aspect. Roku Fan 1835 for $5 says, good luck, Virginia, you'll need it. Also, Stroud, screw the Texans over and the Bears failed Charlie Kirk. Well, I mean, the Bears screwed themselves over. I don't have any sympathy for them, even though I do like Charlie Kirk. I'm not a big fan of them, but yeah, I mean, the Texans are allergic to the conference championship round. It's kind of a law of nature at this point. I don't know why. Justin says, I can see why you don't show. Well, why don't you show your face? Because this is so funny. You say I don't show my face. I show my face every fucking weekend and every fucking live stream. And these people want to come in here and insult like my appearance of all people. Yeah, why don't you show your face for like anything? Oh, you won't do it, and you'll claim that I'm like trying to dox you by saying that. That's how these people operate, by the way. They're just scumbags. They like to come in here. They like to sow division. They like to do whatever the hell they want. Yeah, you think I'm ugly? Okay, buddy. Okay. So you won't say that to my face because it's just simply not true, first of all. Giblet6371 for 10 says, YouGov had polling that 53% of people didn't approve of ISIS tactics. That's not even that bad, by the way. Saying, do you approve of these tactics? And 53% say no. And people want to like spin that to mean this is like a bad thing. If you asked them during Trump's first administration, it probably would be at like 65%. Like the policies about family separation, the policies at the border, and all this stuff, they were polling horrendously. They were polling like in the 20s in favor. Now they're polling in the 40s, and you're about to win. And this is when I have morons that are sitting here and saying that you need to just sit down in the 1 yard line and lose. Like, they're just allergic to winning. The old guard needs to shut the fuck up because they don't know how to win. They've never known how to win. They're the reason why you've had all these people pour across the border. It's not just what's happened with Biden and his administration. It's not just the left. It's the people on the right that have worked overtime within the mental framework of the left, within the ability as that they, say is acceptable. Oh, no, you can't deport those people. Oh, no, we need compassionate conservatism. Where did that get you? Donald Trump won a record share of the Hispanic vote in 2024 when he was promising mass deportations, the largest mass deportation force of all time. Seriously. Like, you can't deal with these stupidity. I'm not saying you or the super chatter. I'm just saying that the media has been trying to run to gaslight when they say Trump only promised to deport the criminals. Nobody believes that. If you go back and watch the tape, it's not on there. It's not on the tape. So, Jadit McSwag for 2 says, what is the % chance we acquire Greenland? I probably would put it at 50-50. I think it will happen in the long run. I think the short run, you might have questions about some of the viability aspect. If they still want to put pressure on Trump, is it going to happen? Is it in his administration? Is it going to happen after his administration? These are the questions that we need to have answered. Giblet also says, opinion on the China-Canada trade deal. Well, the whole thing is abysmal because they were so hell-bent on just trashing the notion of America coming in or trying to have any claim over Canada or any control over Canada. And now these are people that are basically handing large swaths of their economy over to an American adversary in China for one reason or another. It's a joke. The whole thing is a joke. And they're just willing to go along with it because, they get to spite Donald Trump. They get to spite the Americans. The only nationalism that you will ever see from a lot of these people in a lot of these other Western countries has been, we're better than the United States. They only care about their national sovereignty when it comes to the U.S. They don't care when it comes to India taking over half of their country via population or China taking over half of their economy via a garbage trade deal where they're blatantly getting ripped off. They don't care about their sovereignty in the slightest unless when it comes to projecting a faux sense of superiority on they're the little brother. And they think they're so much better than the United States. It's like, it's a joke. It's like if Minnesota was an entire country. That's what you get when you get Canada. Let's see. Trent Dumpster for 5. Says Senate Republicans are doing an apology tour around Europe, assuring them that Trump is not serious about Greenland. Well, you have like Mitch McConnell and some of these other people that are just trying to go out there and just pick a fight with the administration on his way out of the Senate. You have people like Lisa Murkowski that are doing the same thing. And I think that that's just nothing new. That's classic rhino behavior from these people. It doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump is not interested in buying Greenland. Of course he is. And he's bringing these people to the negotiation table. This is typically how Trump works. Sometimes he'll come up with an absurd proposal that gets people interesting. If people have read or at least have understood the art of the deal in terms of the book, as to how Trump operates, it would definitely, really bring an insight to what some people might say is 4D chess based on how he tends to operate in business. And he's doing the same thing as the executive of the United States and making these deals. In fact, the whole Liberation Day trade percentages on the tariffs that he put were very, very high, and they were never really meant to stay that high, nor did they stay that high. And a lot of that just shifted towards China, which was really what the end game was going to be on that front. So as for what is happening with the tariffs and what's going to happen at the Supreme Court, that's a whole different debacle that we'll possibly be covering if that comes up. So Wild and Crazy Bear for 2 says Harry Sisson is the, we know. Sam Madsen for 5 says a large chunk of ICE's disapproval ratings is trendiness. It's unfortunate the American people are so cucked. Well, they hear the narrative in the general public, but it's not breaking through. People forget half the country voted for Trump despite the past 10 years of the media narrative. And in polls that are probably inflating the numbers of the left by, I don't know, you could say 10 points, maybe not 10 points, but like maybe 5 at most. The ICE or the approval of ICE is seemingly in the mid 40s, which is roughly around where you would anticipate it would be in a poll with such a bias. So at the end of the day, I think that a part of it is the economy as well, because when people don't like the economy, they will sour on the administration. If they don't care strongly about the issue, then they will maybe say that they did disapprove with the tactic because they'll buy a little bit into the left's narrative, or they'll buy into the correct narrative or the right's narrative less, just based on the state of the economy. So when the economy is improving, as we see the economy improving, then the approval of deportations will go up. The approval of ICE will go up. The approval of anything will go up. But I just can't stand these people that just try to find a way to lose. They try to find a way to backpedal. They try to subvert the administration one way or another. We cannot let that happen. Enough is enough. This has been going on for far too long. I know some people like to inflate it more, but based on all the calculations and all the studies that I've looked at, the most realistic number of illegal aliens in the country is somewhere around 15, 16 million, where they're probably around a good 4% of the United States population. And that 4% needs to go home. They should not be here. Most of these people are not people that were brought over as children or whatever, like 30 years ago. These are people, half of them weren't even here 5-10 years ago. Those people need to be sent back in their entirety. There's zero reason why those people should be here at all. So, that's the way I see it. I think that's the way a good 40-45% of the country sees it. And the fight for the narrative is just the other 5%. I'd be more worried about Democrats mobilizing their voters off of something like this in like a midterm year more than the impact it would have in a presidential year. How is the funding with ICE going to work out if the Democrats get the House? The House is what sets the budget. Now, of course, it could be shutdowns, there could be compromises, there could be all sorts of things. Yeah, the big beautiful bill did codify a lot of the ICE funding in years to come. The question is, by how much are they going to, what are we going to see? Are Democrats really going to run on defund ICE in the midterms? If they do, it's a horrible strategy for them. Still, even if the approval rating of ICE we take in the YouGov poll at face value, because defunding it is not the answer. And that we know. So people need to keep hammering the narrative home. That's what they need to do. It's actually need to double down, maybe double down in a smart way, double down, set the narrative properly, then the alternative. So let's see. We have 9. We're 6 away from our goal, guys. We are 6 away. Make sure you guys send in a super chat if you guys have a question, comment, concern, so we can get there, so we can hit that goal. We will get to regular chat later if we hit our goal. We have 500 people in chat, 330 likes. Like the stream. Let's get to 350. But ICE is definitely under attack. The left is, they have their George Floyd moment, and just like the George Floyd incident, the media narrative was completely detached from the nuances of reality. And now we actually have like body cam footage that got leaked instantly that put an end to this narrative. It put it in the perspective of the ICE officer who was the hero in this instance that defended himself. He possibly saved other lives in the process if this woman was going to go on some SSRI-fueled rampage and just start running over all sorts of ICE agents. So the media narrative from the left, it needs to go. They need to put it in a box and ship it across the Atlantic, because it does not land with reality. But there is a danger element to it, because there's enough people that they could get to buy in where, yeah, you're talking about a few House seats here just because of their turnout. But at the same time, when you push through, when you double down, you do demoralize them. If you deport 1 million interior removals in the calendar year of 2026, let's say they get to that, they double up the record that we've seen. They've hired all these people. You're seeing just a massive shift, and I'm sure the mass deportations are going to go up significantly as well. Then you're going to be in a much better spot as a country. You're going to have the rent prices go down, the housing prices go down, the wages go up, the job openings go up, and they're going to be at fairer market wages. They always say Americans don't do these jobs that the illegals do. The problem is the illegals do them for far less. It's the same thing with the H-1B visa scam when they're driving down the wages of these big tech jobs, and then they give them to people that come over from India or in some cases China, and they ship a good chunk of that money back home, and now they finally are paying a remittance tax that is still way too low, needs to be much higher, and the United States is not the one that really benefits from that in any meaningful capacity. So, let's see. We have 3 more. We're 3 away from the goal. John Waffle, H2P for 5, says Trump needs to declare martial law at this point. The governors are obstructing justice. What is Bondi doing? Well, these sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, yeah, it's unconstitutional. The federal government, under the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution, has the pure authority over the decisions of the states. That gives them the authority to set national law, immigration law. They can go in there. They need to go in there and deport the illegal aliens that are there. The city should not be able to protect these people. Shouldn't work that way. American Nerd 76 for 5 says, I feel like the ICE stuff is going to blow over in a month. This is usually what happens. I'm more interested about the reconciliation bill. Yeah, we'll possibly be talking about that next week, or next weekend's live stream, if it's going to be a hot topic this week, which it could be, depending on the debate about it. I saw the first draft or the concept, and there's some good things. There's some things that are a bit questionable that we could cover as well. Giblet for 5 says, the ironies that the coexist crowd always likes to throw out ad hominems and aspersions at you for having a discussion. Well, I mean, Charlie Kirk is killed for having a discussion. So what are you going to do with these people? Do they want to have a discussion? The answer is no, they don't. They want to yell. They want to be angry. They want to act like NPCs, fools, you name it. Sam Harrison for 2 says, thoughts on the 50% tax on OnlyFans models. That was proposed by a candidate for governor of Florida who raised $950 in the entire calendar year of 2025, and James Fishback, who's a bit of a character for sure. But as for the proposal, I think it's directionally correct. I also think that it's not the most effective way, because you could say, just ban it outright, which it should be. I mean, it's technically prostitution. If prostitution is not legal, why is OnlyFans legal? It is just digital prostitution. It's not even a question of like the legality of like pornography at that point, even though that should be banned as well. I think it would be better to put an excise tax on it of like 500% and target the consumer. If you're going to have like an incrementalist standpoint where, okay, we're going to do something at the state level about this topic, because if you do that, what that's going to do is it's going to deter the use. There's not going to be as much, this is not going to be as much, I guess you would say, commerce going on in that department. But if you target the producers of it, which I think there's other ways to target the producers that are effective, but in this case, it kind of creates like a pilot program for like a state income tax. And these people will just move to a different state, and they're going to be doing the same thing to the same consumer base, the same customer base in the state of Florida. And at that point, the people in the state of Florida, the gooner class of Florida, whoever those people may be, those people are still going to be doing the same thing. The OnlyFans people are still going to be doing the same thing, and it doesn't solve the problem. So again, well-intentioned policy, but Fishback he's a bit of a character. He doesn't have a shot to win. He'll say some good things, and then he'll be extraordinarily unserious on social media and cripple any legitimate chance he has. I mean, you could see he's not running for governor. He's running for governor of X. He's running for Groyper General. He's running for some like. He's trying to just stoke outrage and, in certain corners of the internet that a lot of people tend to think are far more consequential than they actually are. Like, we need actual change. We need, if Fishback wanted to be in the race and push Byron Donalds to the right, that would actually be something that would be a good thing. The problem is he's been in the race and all he's done is antagonize, post, try to be as edgy as possible. And it's like, okay, it can be entertaining to watch a gubernatorial candidate post just absurd stuff. That's true. But this is not like a Donald Trump moment. Donald Trump is authentic. Donald Trump is natural. Any controversy stemmed from Donald Trump just being Donald Trump. James Fishback is like a manufactured, like curated, like Mike McDaniel clone that like basically puts out like these sloppulist talking points on things, and some of them are good and some of them are not as good, but then he ruins any viability he has by being just very unserious. I don't think he would even beat a Democrat in Florida in a midterm year if he was the nominee. It's not because of his immigration policy is a good policy. It's just because he's it's like a Mark Robinson situation. The guy also has a sex scandal in his closet, which is alleged. But the fact that it's even out there at all, that somebody has allegations of being 26 and having a relationship with someone who's 16, even if it's false, that's going to hurt you. People said the Roy Moore stuff could have been false. Roy Moore lost a state that Donald Trump won by 30, like the year before. So again, I warn people, be careful. Be careful about these candidates. We need based people, but we don't want retarded people either. That's my take on the whole Fishback thing. So does that mean Byron Donalds is perfect? No. But this guy's not capable of winning. Not capable in a primary when he's barely raising any money. He's not capable of winning a general against somebody like a David Jolly in the state of Florida. He will probably lose. I don't care how red Florida is. He will underperform Trump by like 20. Even if you factor in the red shift since then, he'll lose by 6. That's not good. We don't want to hand Florida back to the other side. If you want to have a conversation about Collins or some of these other people in Florida that are running, we can have that conversation. If there's somebody who's viable that is better than Byron Donalds, I can have that conversation. But Fishback is not the answer. He's a meme candidate. It's Neil Kumar all over again. Remember that guy? Very few people remember. You probably have to be. It's very esoteric, like election Twitter type stuff from 2022. Okay, we are back. I don't know what that was with the audio, but we're back. So let's see. American Nerd 76 says Fishback reminds me of Don. Well, I mean, Don Blankenship, I wouldn't go Don Blankenship was funny. Like, that's the thing. Don Blankenship actually was naturally funny. Fishback is he's just forced. He doesn't come off as authentic. In fact, the funny thing is he's doing this whole anti-Israel stuff now, but 2 years ago, he was right there with Bari Weiss and all these other, like, big name, like, Zionistic type of figures. And he was, he talks about Byron Donalds and H-1Bs. Byron Donalds wants to gut the program entirely, but Fishback was defending Vivek when he was having that whole Christmas crash out back in 2024. So I don't know why anybody trusts this guy. Even if you are on the fringes, I don't know why these people like trust him in any capacity to be that candidate. I think it's going to be very curious to see how many votes he actually gets. I would be shocked if he got double digits in the primary, because you have a field like the guy in Ohio who's running against Vivek. Even though you could make a case that he's less serious than Fishback, because he's not Vivek, that will mean that he'll get like 12% at a minimum in the primary. Doesn't mean he's going to win, doesn't mean he's even going to get 20, but he will get some votes, some percentage of the vote, because it's basically a 1v1. But when you go to Florida, it's going to be Donalds, Collins, Renner. You might have a few other people. The guy's polling right now in like the low to mid single digits. I don't even know if he's going to stay there. So, it's just the terminally online meme candidates. Like, it's, if you want to push people to the right, you still even then have to be serious about it. You have to do it tactfully. You have to do it in an intelligent manner. You don't basically just go around and make a fool out of yourself and just like try to be a provocateur. That's not what, like, that it misreads the whole Trump thing, and it kind of plays into like the liberal, you're becoming it's like a caricature of like what the left perceives Trump as, essentially, as to how these people tend to behave. It's not like actually just like being controversial naturally and just breaking the left by just being authentic, because that's what Trump did. That's not what these people do. So, yeah. Double Down for 5. We're 2 super chats away, but thank you, Double Down. And we are going to double down. That's how we win. I think there's ways to double down better than others, for sure. But you have to set the narrative. It really is a propaganda war. That is entirely what this is. And the left has been very skilled, although they've lost control of the narrative. So in part, that's why you're not going to see a bloodbath in the midterms for Republicans like what you saw in 2018. Although it is true that, the economy, while you could say improving, the jobs numbers still aren't ideal. We understand that. But GDP is rising significantly, which is good. The unemployment rate did dip in the last month. We will see if that is like a seasonal thing or if that actually continues. So there's plenty of reason for hope on the horizon. All this talk about rampant inflation, and like the inflation side of things is actually probably improving the most, especially even, wages are rising as well. But people that are unemployed, the job market is still rough. Could that improve? Will that improve? I'd like to believe so. I think AI is in a place where you could make the case that it will end up creating jobs. You have all these data centers that are going up. American Nerd 76 says, who's worse, Fishback or Royce White? Well, Fishback, like Royce White, like he had a lot of statements that were taken out of context. That was his biggest issue at the time. He actually didn't underperform by as much as some people thought he would, because Amy Klobuchar went from winning the state by like 30, then she only outperformed Trump by like 10. I mean, any no-name candidate would have probably had a fairly similar result to whatever Royce White put up. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't the best result. Maybe an actually serious candidate would have managed to keep that race within 10, but it wasn't the end of the world either. Fishback, we don't know the end game, but given his associates and given how his campaign has been run, the guy's a clown. Like, I tell people this, I'm not really the biggest fan of just giving the microphone instantly to people that say, oh, this guy said the base thing, therefore it's like there's more to it. There's more to the election than that. And I don't even know if he's in this to win this, honestly, because you would imagine he's smart enough to know that he's basically being a provocateur, that he's basically running to raise his profile so he can go on Tucker Carlson's show and talk about Israel or something. He's setting up his podcast circuit. He's setting up his Rumble podcast. This is what he's running for. He's not running for governor of Florida. He's running for governor of Rumble. Let him go of a podcast where he talks about things that he doesn't understand that are going on in the Middle East. Like, let him do that. Let him do his thing out there, because that's basically what he's headed for. So we're 2 away. We need him 5 and above, guys, to get the goal. And we've got 400 people in chat, so I think we could do it. Samuel Harrison 508 says, don't these people rather have Newsom over Vance because Newsom is quote-unquote hotter? Yeah, it's a very heterosexual statement to make, isn't it? Like seriously, they don't understand the dynamics here. Even if people want to say from the analysis standpoint, oh, Newsom is better looking than Vance, so he'll win, which is debatable because he kind of looks like a villain. He has villain physiognomy. That's what Newsom has. Vance, meanwhile, is not a bad-looking guy by any means. I mean, he's, especially with the beard, he's got his own level of aura. It's improving. It's developing. He hasn't been a politician his entire life. He's not a total sociopath, but he's very intelligent, and that plays out very well. I remember the left was, and some of these people were saying at the time when the left decided that Tim Walz was going to be the VP in 2024, they were like, actually, Tim Walz is who J.D. Vance says he is. He's actually normal. And the guy's basically a theater kid weirdo with his jazz hands and all of his weird things that he would do. He's basically a walking minstrel show of the white working class, and he really hurt the ticket with them in particular, if anything. So all of these people that like to yap and whine, they've been wrong about everything. It's not really something that I would put too much attention or stock into. And it's yeah, if you're James Fishback and you want to get a Trump co-endorsement, which is almost what you would desperately need in the state of Florida, because he already endorsed Donald, you're going to need the Trump endorsement to win. The same thing goes for Jay Collins. If Jay Collins wants to win, he better have the DeSantis endorsement and a Trump co-endorsement. It's just the way it is, because that Trump endorsement is half the primary when he's a sitting president in a midterm year, whether people like it or not. And Fishback decides to go out there and, I don't know, go and support people that literally have said they wanted Newsom over Vance for one reason or another. People like that one guy who smashes his bones with hammers and calls it look-smaxing. You have a mental illness problem in this generation with a lot of these people, and this is kind of the product of that. It's a sense of nihilism where these people don't actually believe in anything. I don't think they want to save this country. They just want to be seen. They want to be, I don't know, they don't want to save the country. They want to be able to have recognition. They want attention. They want to grift. That's what you're dealing with. So we do need serious people to an extent. So you're correct on that assessment, Samuel. Giblet for 10, and we hit our goal. Says we're not getting prices down to a pre-COVID level. That's not how inflation cycles work. Trump needs to be honest about this. Wages haven't been raised since Well, wages are going up. real wages are going up. I don't think that part of your statement is correct, because real wages did rise by like 1% in 2024 or 2025. But you're right about deflation. You're not going to see deflation. You will see, hopefully, inflation lower and then wages rise faster. That's what the end game is going to be, because prices will go up to an extent. May not be by much. It might be stagnant. But what's going to drive the ship, besides things like, we got to lower beef prices. We got to lower housing prices to an extent. You have to lower gas prices, which they've already been lowered. I mean, gas is down. It's incredible. Let's see here. American Nerd 76 says, do you think Steve Bannon will run in 28? Probably. I think that there will be a candidate or two that tries to run to Vance's right. And I think Bannon might be one of them. And I don't think it's going to bode too well for him in terms of a viability perspective to win. But if there's like a policy or two he wants to bring out onto the table, he's got to be careful about how he goes about that for sure. Because I don't think Fishback is really doing that, despite his comprehensive policy platforms regarding pushing Donalds to the right. Our dog show for 2 says, forget Vance Rubio, Vance Red Eagle 28. Antonio Harlan 5246 for 10 says, monumentally frustrating to see Rhino sandbagging Trump's agenda every step of the way, redistricting, tariffs, military action, etc. Why do we keep shitting the bed when we're right at the finish line? Because so many people, and look, it's to pretend we're not making progress is false, but you still have so many holdovers in this party that don't know what they're doing, and they need to go, and a lot of them are going, and it's just a slow process, but we just need to keep making noise and keep setting the narrative as much as possible and making sure that the dinosaurs within the political class officially go extinct as soon as they possibly can and just retire and step away, because it's clear they're not cut out for this. They can't lead. They can't even fall in line. They need to go. So John Campbell for 5 says, taking away the personalities and scandals, do you think Fishback's policies or Byron's would be better for Florida? I mean, it's a tough question to ask, because we don't know a lot about Byron Donalds' policies, to be fair, and that is a valid critique of Donalds. Fishback has come out with a lot of interesting policies, some of which I would like Donalds to just take off the table and adopt. As for Donalds himself, I think there are legitimate questions regarding crime. He's shown tendency to be a little bit weak on those issues. However, when it comes down to like immigration, everyone is always saying like he's H1 Byron, which is like not really true. He has like an A+ from Numbers USA. He's called for gutting the program. So at a minimum, he's been pushed right to the right on that issue. I don't think that was Fishback's doing necessarily, but it's just like I'm not convinced that Donalds is weak on immigration. I do think that when it comes to other issues, he has some weaknesses, but again, it's also about the ability to win, and I think Fishback is somebody that is going to have a lot of his backers are going to have a big awakening when he doesn't do that well in the primary. That's like a big thing, because you have so many people that are like, he's getting like the young support. It's like, even if you adjust by age, he's probably not getting any more than like 15% of voters under 30 in the primary. In fact, a lot of the people will just see Trump's endorsement and just go with Trump's endorsement. Like the actual voter in a primary, in some cases this does hurt us, is not a very informed voter, you could say. You could argue. And it's not a good thing that that's the case all the time. But when Trump makes an endorsement, it usually helps the endorsement out. King Caboose 2003 for 5 says, I'm sorry, but what the F is Trump doing? He should have invoked the Insurrection Act a week ago. The crap in Minnesota is the definition of it. Yeah, I mean, people are protesting. Sometimes they may get out of hand He did invoke it regarding the LA riots, but these have not really transformed into full-scale riots like what we saw in 2020, to the point where I think Trump is just looking at this and saying, let the left whine, let the left have their moment, let them go out in the cold of January and protest the fact that police or an ICE officer defended himself when a woman made a very stupid and poor decision. Obviously, we understand death is not a good thing, but she decided to suffer that fate. It's like somebody walks up to a cop and reaches for the cop's gun like he's probably going to be dead. People call that suicide by cop. This, in a way, given the situation, you could make a case it was just suicide by ICE officer. And that's why he's going to be able to get off, because his life was at the time in danger, even though wouldn't even say it was like probably wasn't suicide in terms of whatever was going on in her brain, although who really even knows what was going on in there, if anything at all, in that situation. But I think that's it for Super Chats. We'll look in the regular chat. Let's see. Trump endorsement doesn't carry the same weight. This doesn't work. Well, that tagline doesn't work now because he's president. That would have worked in 2022 when he was on a hiatus and people paid less attention to whatever Trump was doing. He wasn't dominating the headlines the same way. Donalds is going to set Florida. Well, how's he going to set Florida back 10 years? Is he going to unravel every Ron DeSantis policy? Because that's what it would do. That's ridiculous. Now, would put Florida back 10 years is putting a Democrat governor in Tallahassee. That would put Florida back 10 years. So, let's see. Trump endorsed weak candidate in Louisiana. The fact he endorsed against Cassidy in general is good. I think the other guy who's running would be preferable to Letlow. But be careful, because they don't have runoffs anymore. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they got rid of runoffs. Let me know if there's runoffs in the primary, because they don't do the runoff general election jungle primary anymore. They got rid of that. But do they do runoffs in the primary, or do they not do runoffs in the primary? Because that changes a lot here. Because we do need to get rid of Cassidy. He needs to go. Closed primary. I know about the closed primary, but that's not the answer to the runoff situation. But I'll wait and see. Thoughts on Steve Scalise updating the SAVE Act for photo ID voting? Well, it's good. It needs to pass. They need to pass it. You should have to. The real ID. Everyone's like, you have a segment of like the right that doesn't want to like win, and they see the real ID and they're like, this is actually tyranny. It's like, it's a government ID that proves you're a citizen. It's a driver's license. And then we're supposed to think that that's like the government's like, the government already has the surveillance powers that you're afraid of. Let's be real here. I'm still waiting for somebody to let me know about Louisiana. If not, I'll find out after the stream. But we don't know about the runoff, because I'll say this: if there's a runoff, then vote for the other guy, not Cassidy, but the guy that's been running. And then if there is no runoff, you have to vote for Letlow, because it's basically either her or Cassidy, and a vote for the other guy would be a vote for Cassidy, which sucks, but it is what it is. DeSantis wouldn't have become governor in the first place. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's true. And the thing is also, a lot of DeSantis' success has been directly because of things that he signed from the state legislature. So, like, Byron Donalds would have to also go through the state legislature. I don't see how he would set back the state 10 years. Is there, like, an element of things that he said in the past that have been, like, you could say it's like diet woke stuff? Maybe. But he's also said some things that are politically incorrect as well, to the point where I don't know if I could sit here and really say that he's like diet woke because he wanted to like get a jab in at DeSantis during a primary about his electability in a general election, which was a valid critique at the time and still does hold up. So, okay, well, a lot of people that are talking about the primary in Louisiana, the question's about the runoff. Is there a runoff in Louisiana still from the primaries? Because that's what we don't know. I know that Landry, who's done a great job, got rid of that like Alaska-style Washington, California system, which is good that he got rid of it. But Thune gone. I mean, you're probably not going to have Thune or Johnson be gone unless they step on Trump's toes. And so far, they've passed through the agenda that Trump has asked them to pass through. I'm not here to defend Thune or to say that he's a great senator, because he's a very much an old guard guy, but he's gotten people to fall in line to the point where I don't think that the Republican Congress has done this awful job. Like, I have grievances. Lindsey Graham, who Trump did endorse, watered down the remittance tax. That's not a good thing. There's other things that need to go. The filibuster, I just don't think we're there yet to the point where you're going to have enough old guard Republicans want to get rid of it. You might even get up to like 20 or you might even have 30, 35. It's not good enough. We got to continue. Maybe after another shutdown or two, you will have Republicans in the Senate realize that, getting rid of the filibuster is probably a good thing. And you could say, well, the Democrats are going to do X, Y, and Z if they get control. But they're already going to do that. And you know they're already going to do that. So you might as well just at least lower the bar to I don't know what. But it's like everything goes in the reconciliation packages because that's the only way they can get anything done. And people are mad because, they've only passed like 10 bills or whatever. And it's like, yeah, because the 10 bills are really like hundreds of bills. So, let's see. What have they passed to help us, your average American, in preserving American culture? Well, talk about preserving America, the fact that ICE now has a budget that is larger than like 90% of countries in the world's militaries. I mean, that's a good place to start. The whole economic agenda has been passed. That's going to be huge. Talk about Made in America tax credits that basically serves for corporations as like a protectionist policy. You have negative net migration for the first time since the 1950s, if not the 1920s. Like, yeah, it's not perfect. They don't have national voter ID yet, which is less than ideal for sure. So it's not like the Congress has not done anything in particular. User for 5 says, you're wrong about Fuentes. I found out my normie dad supports Nick. I'm not saying he doesn't have any support in the real world. That's never been what I've said. When you expose somebody to millions upon millions of people, you're going to have some people that see it, whether they see the memes or they see anything, and they're like, I like that guy. The bottom line is the people that act like he's got this like large growing movement and everybody under the age of 30 is wearing the blue hat and watching this guy's show on this botted platform. That part is the inaccurate part. I think these people really overestimate their support within the young right, and they do. You know, you look at the fact that I believe it was we put out a poll, or we conducted a poll, on Israel among young voters on the right. And how did that shape up? Most people, yeah, they're ambivalent about Israel, but very few have an unfavorable view compared to what you would expect given a lot of these people. So, like I said, the real world is different. These people are in a bubble, and they've already peaked. What is the guy going to do? Go on 3 more interviews on all these shows that have already interviewed him and get like diminishing returns in the process? Fine. Do it. It's not going to really get him anywhere. It's diminishing returns at this point. The fact that we're even still talking about things like Israel in general are ridiculous because of the fact that the conflict, you already have a ceasefire. You could say it might not last forever, although it's lasted longer than I think a lot of people would have wanted it to. But that is the popular position. Whining about Israel 24/7 is not the popular position. That doesn't mean people don't have their critiques of Israel or policy towards it, or that they've become less sycophantic compared to older generations when it comes down to the right. But when you talk about Fuentes, he's also somebody that if people actually watch him over time or pay attention to what he says, he flip-flops positions. Because he was coming around a week ago to our position regarding the third worldists and the Palestine people or whatever, and then he's going out there this past weekend hanging out with all those same people. So, enough is enough. It's exhausting. It's all a sideshow. It's all e-drama. You're like e-drama streamers. Like, that's basically what it's become. So it's a niche that's been carved out, but it's not really a sustainable political ideology. And when you have people like, Fishback, who are like an extension of that actually try to assume and attain power, they'll blame Israel for not getting the money, which doesn't even really, like Zoran Mamdani was very anti-Israel. The Israel lobby was very much against him. He was running a very left-wing, far-left populist campaign, radical campaign. And guess what? He raised the max donation limit that they allowed for New York City. So you have a right-wing populist-ish state in Florida, and then you have a guy that tries to do the same thing. It doesn't work in part because what actually defines the will of a lot of the voters that are in that camp is different. If you ran on, we should, I like the policy Fishback had in particular of we're going to make sure that in-state tuition for foreign students is like $1 million a semester or something like that to deter that. That's a great policy. I like that policy quite a bit. In fact, Byron Donalds should adopt it. But like if that was a part of his campaign, instead of like, we're actually going to take investments that like involve Israel and just not put the money through them, which will actually lead us to getting less money, that's not like going to relate to the boomers in Florida, which are very pro-Israel, by the way, and still pro-Israel. So, okay. Interesting name this guy has, but the Feet 3000 guy for 20 says Trump is justified in wanting Greenland. The U.S. doesn't subsidize Europe. It allows them to exist through its strong military and deterring Russia and China. The amount of disrespect they show is sickening. Exactly. So you want us to police the world or not? I don't mind being on the world stage, but we have to call the shots. We are exceptional. Donald Trump is a strong believer in American exceptionalism, and that's what separates him from the others. Real Texan Politics 3289 says, I like Fishback's syntax idea too, as unserious as he is. I like the idea. However, I would do it differently because, like I said, if he's going to levy it for probably like, you talk about the producers, which would be not that many people who already pay like federal taxes, for example, they'll just leave the state, but people are still going to consume that content in the state. I think the consumers are even, the fact that people are able to consume it is far more of a problem than whatever income the people that produce it make, because people will still do it. If anything, they'll produce more of it. And you also create a pilot program for a state income tax, which is not going to go over very well, politically speaking, whether you want to say it's fair or not. But Florida does have excise taxes on things like alcohol, cigarettes, all that type of stuff that would be considered like a sin tax. So put a ridiculously high sin tax on that. If not, try to find a way to outlaw the site in the state. I know people will use like VPNs or whatever, but you could probably get it outlawed. And what I also would do is, I believe the headquarters is in the state of Florida. So why not do what every left-winger does to any right-wing organization in any state and just find a way, file all these lawsuits, basically put them out of business. Use the power that you have to put them out of business. Doing something like that would be far more effective than the policy that he proposed so he could get into a spat on social media with some ethot that's like whining about economics. It's like, it's not really the most serious campaign. But any predictions for upsets in the March primaries? I think Texas, I could see Crockett winning the primary on the Democrat side. That'd be very entertaining if that happened. I hope it happens. She'll be a lot easier to beat. I'm not saying that Tallarico won't be easy to beat, but let's see. If Rep Bash Israel 24/7 gets 1,000 viewers. See, yeah, I could sell out easily to that side of things, but it's a bubble, first of all. Second of all, I don't believe it. I'm not going to be inauthentic in my beliefs and whine about a foreign country halfway across the globe that's the size of New Jersey and say that anybody who disagrees with me is being paid $7,000 every time they say something about it. So we have elections to win. What I focus on is not something that is, I guess you would say, going to draw millions of cattle every single Sunday, but it is going to draw in a lot of people that are invested in the specifics of electoral politics and the trenches. You know, the quality also of the viewership that we have, I think, is eons above most people in general, just because we have a lot of people that care about saving, how you actually can save the country where it counts. That's like where this audience really taps into. So let's see. Primary for MTG in March. Well, that's for the replacement. The replacement election is going to be taking place. She's out of Congress. Herrera over Gonzalez. Yeah, Trump endorsing Gonzalez. That was an L move, but I assume it's part of his incumbent protection policy, where he endorses any incumbent who doesn't vote to impeach him, which I would have rather he just stayed out. Thankfully, didn't endorse Crenshaw. He never endorses Crenshaw for some reason, but he never endorses against him. So maybe that could be an upset. Real Texan for 10 says, anyone who lives in Texas Senate District 9 needs to vote for Leigh Wambsgans by January 31st. Early voting starts on Wednesday, ends on January 27th. Taylor Remmett is a Zoran-esque socialist. Thank you for the 10, Real Texan. I've heard about that race. Believe that's over in Fort Worth, which is the city right behind me. So Rep is one of the few sane people left. I think that everyone else has just kind of gone insane. And Charlie Kirk was, it was happening before Charlie Kirk got assassinated, but that assassination definitely changed the game. And even the elections in November changed the game because people really started jockeying for what a post-Trump right should look like. And it goes for both the old guard neocons and the rising but overrated in terms of volume fringe types. It's true. You have people citing Rumble for view counts and things like that. It's even you can see through the back end my Rumble views, which I don't I post on Rumble as a backup. I think 90% of our viewers are obviously going to be here on YouTube, but it's a 4x to 10x multiplier. That's what people don't realize about Rumble and how botted it is, especially for the live streams. We stream there on a cross platform thing with StreamYard once. and it said we had like 100 live viewers there, and the chat was like pretty much dead. We had like a few people. So yeah, Rumble definitely is a botted platform. Anyways, as for view counts, but it's like I'm not competing with people when it comes down to views anyways, to the point where it's a stupid argument to even have in the first place. But like, that's the argument. I can't debate your actual merits here, therefore you're not as relevant as these other people. Okay, is that really an own? Like, it's not. Charlie Kirk will be calling out these foreign missteps. What exactly would he call out regarding the foreign missteps? Because I think that, if anything, I agree with the American soil part, which these things do take time. You do have investigations. You could say you don't have faith in the DOJ after Bindergate or whatever to pull off what they're looking into. But, I mean, as for the foreign affairs, Charlie would not have a problem with the Maduro thing. I mean, even the people like the likes of Fuentes supported the Maduro thing. It just was an obvious layup because it was such a victory for the administration. And Charlie did support the Iran strikes as well, and had disagreements with Tucker Carlson behind the scenes about it at the time. So, you know, he wasn't a neocon, and Trump's not a neocon, but Trump just has an active presence on the world stage. And you have people that say that that's like a bad thing because he should be focusing more on the home front. And it's like, the job of being president is multifaceted. You deal with the economy, you deal with the foreign affairs, you deal with X, Y, and Z when you're president of the United States. It's not just one thing that you're going to be dealing with. I didn't really see any missteps. Would I like to see a more effective approach when it comes down to battling the left on the home turf? I mean, I guess you could say that, but there's already been so much institutional damage that Trump did within his first few months to the institutional left in government, to the point where, like, there's just like, they're in retreat mode in full, and this is why they're lashing out. This is like the left is dying. Why do you think they're acting like this? You could say they can win these like special elections or whatever. We're talking about the cultural left. So long as the economy begins to make a comeback, they're not going to be able to get away with any degree of wokeness, which they have chosen that they're refusing to abandon. In any meaningful capacity, they're just straight up refusing to abandon it. So if they continue to go down this pathway, they're signing their own electoral death warrant in 2028. By the way, Gavin Newsom, he's going to have problems with his own party. They don't think he's far left. They think he's establishment. He is establishment, to be fair. But, like, they don't like his Israel policy. They don't like that. They think he's too capitalist for them. They think that it's just, the whole thing is ridiculous. But the far left, I don't think they have a candidate. Like AOC, I don't see her as a serious candidate. Like Bernie Sanders, he was that guy. He was the far left's Trump in a way. Who's going to replace him? It's not going to be AOC, but there is a role for that. And that person has now an opportunity, if they played their cards right, to win the nomination. Now, it can't be Zoran Mamdani because he's not born here. Unless you get some sort of amendment to the Constitution where you compromise and say Trump can run for a third term, and then you allow for citizens of 20 years to run, and then you, for all you know, you get Obama back coming out of retirement almost 20 or I guess 12 years after the fact to run against Trump, and depending on the state of the economy, possibly even lose. That's not going to happen realistically, but people can talk about it. It would be entertaining, but I can't see AOC getting 50% of a Democrat primary. especially now because she's trying to moderate. Now as VP, could I see Newsom make her VP? That probably would be seen as less crazy now than like Biden picking Kamala with all the crazy things she said in 2020. Like, yeah, he could get away with that, and she'd be on the ticket, and she'd get the far left support for the ticket. It actually would make sense for them. I don't think it would help the ticket. I don't know if they'd give it to her, but, yeah, Newsom is going to have to pick a woman for VP. Right? If not, then that's still a good sign because it means that the cultural Overton window has shifted so much to the point where they're not even trying. But, if they decide to pick AOC for anything, that would be a gift to the Republicans. We have a Republican leading the polls for Gavin's seat when he leaves. Well, that's because Republicans could win the governorship in California because of their primary system. Because it's possible that you have two Republicans finishing at the top, and if they finish at the top, they advance to the general. The Democrats are frozen out. Do I expect that to happen? Probably not. But is it possible? Theoretically, yes. You could have a Republican governor in California, and that might be the way you get it. So, but yeah, AOC and Vance, that's like a IQ disparity of like 60 being realistic here on that debate stage. That would be brutal. That would be insane. I have a feeling we won't lose the midterms. History would disagree with you, but there is a shot. It will be close in the House. Republicans will hold the Senate. Governorships don't really count for how you would gauge it, but I think it's going to be probably around a wash at the governor level. So we'll see. You got a few months before the primaries start, and it's going to be a fun time, a fun ride for sure. So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to end the show. Like the stream before you go. Subscribe. Hit that bell. I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.